Hey, it's Coach Taylor here from SmarterTeamTraining.com. I enjoy getting a chance to reach out to professionals around the field, basically from the U.S. all the way around the world now, and get a chance to really see and hear really what other people are doing and what's working for them. And I got a chance to talk to Mike Barwis here on the email and a couple of his other staff members, and they got tons of things going on. And whether you like their approach or you don't like their approach, when you're talking to different professionals, I think you have to keep an open mind and really ask two main questions. What has worked for them, and what do they know now that they wish you knew then? And getting an opportunity here, Mike, to have you on the phone, and they really tap into some of your experiences and knowledge, just going throughout the field for working with a whole big array of different types of people, from extremely athletic to some of the spinal cord injury people that you get a chance to work with. It's going to be a real honor, man. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day here, big dog, and I'm looking forward to just talking shop with you, my man.
Hey, it's truly my honor. I appreciate you having me. It's, spent the last 20-some-odd years of my life working in this field, and it's definitely something I want to give back to and hopefully help out some of the young guys coming up.
Hey, Mike, before we get started with some of the Q&A that I obviously have for you, I want to know a little bit about you as a person, man. I mean, can you tell me a little bit about how you got involved in the field, really where your passion came from, and kind of really what's up to get you where you are now?
I'm a highly energetic, very, very motivational person. I'm very grounded in everything I do. My real mentors in life were my mom, my dad, my grandmother, and my grandfather. They helped raise me, all of them together. They fortified me with a work ethic. They taught me that, it's more important to do things right for people and do the right things for the right reasons than it is to achieve goals or destinations. So my philosophy has always been, if the people I work with today mean more to me than I do to myself, I'll be good at my job. So everything I do is based around impacting lives and trying to cause whatever change or metamorphosis is necessary to help people achieve their goals. I got into the field basically because I originally wanted to be a doctor. I thought that I wanted to get into medicine. I wanted to study physiology, exercise physiology, because I love science. As I got into that field, I started to realize that, one, my energy and my passion really aren't suitable for it. It's a little bit more mellow. It's a little more taken back. You have to have a lot more controlled expression, and that's not my nature. I like to bring energy. I like to motivate people. I like to inspire people to achieve things that they can't achieve on their own. And really it comes down to me. I'm based around God and Jesus Christ and having my philosophy put towards making people achieve their goals or helping people achieve their goals through the abilities that were given to them by God.
And what kind of assessments or tests do you use when working with the general athletes? Are you an FMS guy? Are you a conditioning guy? Are you a strength test guy? I mean, kind of walk me down that road there if you wouldn't mind.
We do a large number of different tests. Most of the guys I work with currently, we work with several hundred Olympic and professional athletes in a variety of sports. I've worked with over 40 different sporting events. And when you actually look at training, a lot of what has to be identified when you're at the highest level is individualized. So we will use different components of maybe a functional movement screen. We also have strength tests. We have neuromuscular balance tests as far as looking at the anterior to the posterior, looking at agonist and antagonist work relationships. We also work on flexibility examinations for range of motion about a joint and functional movement. We look at neural activation, how well a person can activate at slow velocity versus at high velocity. Can they convert their strength to power, or are they just a person who has basic force production? We also look at biomechanical assessment. Do they move properly? When they move, are they in the most effective position to generate the most force, optimally utilizing the gravitational pull or whatever variable they could use? And then on top of that, we look at effective core transfer. Can we transfer the power from our upper extremity to our lower extremity and vice versa without a lot of force dissipation? We really try to itemize every single little component we can of how the body moves. Our system is basically designed through us, and we basically take people through a different range of motion of movements, different activations. We have different tests that we utilize as well to determine velocity of shortening, to identify the weaknesses a person may have, as well as their strengths, and try and reduce the risks of injury as well as performance increase.
As a strength and conditioning coach, you have a big impact on team development, team building, that whole concept of leadership within a team. I want to know a little bit, if you wouldn't mind walking me through that concept of where do team development and team building exercises or activities rank in your overall program when you're actually developing a team?
I like to train people in groups when we're talking about teams. The reason for that is competitive nature. When you're talking about training the top athletes in the world, you have to realize these guys and girls are competitive. They are where they are because they strive to be great. They want to take their God-given abilities and manifest greatness in everything they do. Because of that, when you put another person in the room who is doing a similar activity at the same time, they will compete. It's in their makeup. It's in their genetics. It's what they want to be. So when you throw them in the room, that competitive nature inspires a lot of things that normally would not occur without the level of competition. One, I think that's important. Two, human beings emulate their surroundings. If I come into the gym every day, and I've seen this in different situations, or if I go to like a Gold's Gym or something else, and it's everybody's got their headset on, everybody's kind of doing their own thing, they're running on the treadmill. If everyone in the room is passive, guess what? Sooner or later we will become passive. If everyone in the room is explosive, aggressive, positive, reinforcing, and energetic, it elevates the attitude of the room. We tend to elicit the same results as our environment. So putting people in a group and having an inspirational, highly energetic, highly explosive environment elevates not only the changes in hormones, but the response and energy that is exerted in a workout. People tell me all the time, hey, I have trouble getting my guys to come into the gym. My biggest problem is I can't get them out. Once they're in there, they want to be there all the time because, one, we love and care about them, and that's the first priority. The second priority is we're going to motivate them and aspire to achieve greatness through them in their goals. My job is I'm irrelevant. If I focus on the people I work with more than I focus on myself, I'll be good at what I do. If I come into the gym and I'm tired and I'm sick and I worry about what my life is going through, instead I should be focusing on the people I'm working with, focusing on my ability to bring energy to them and help them to achieve their goals. So you've got to always be up if you're the coach. Pretty simple.
I posted a couple things on social media leading up to this conversation and just trying to find out what people wanted to know about you, what kind of questions they wanted me to ask type scenario. And one question was, what is the most common mistake you see when athletes are preparing for the next level? And I want to put a little twist to that, if you wouldn't mind. I want to ask you, what are some similarities and some traits that you've seen in successful athletes? I mean, what are some things that the successful guys are consistently doing, or ladies for that matter, doing to achieve excellence?
When you look at the top athletes in the world, most of them have fortitude. They're consistent. They come in every day. They do their job. They're focused on their job. They're intense. They give 100% of what they have, and they strive to be competitive. That is a common trait. Many of the things that I see are done wrong. I'd say one of the most common mistakes I see is anterior to posterior balance. Many of the guys and girls spend a lot of time on squatting, cleaning, developing the quadricep, developing the hips, and they really have very little focus on the posterior chain, the glutes and the hamstrings, which puts us in a really significant imbalance. One, your performance is going to decrease dramatically from a strength component, but again, you're also going to set yourself up for significant injuries. You're going to change the range of motion as the quads and hips get very tight. You eliminate some of the range of motion and function of the hamstring and the glute. Now you take out a large muscle group that is very, very functional when we're talking about running. When we look at an extension of the leg, the glute is the last activator to create that hip extension, which gives us a great amount of propulsion in a horizontal direction. So when we look at things that we're doing in a training component, we have to understand that not only are we trying to improve the development of one area, we're trying to maintain the balance for the antagonist. If the agonist is the quad, the antagonist is the hamstring. If we do not maintain that balance, we put ourselves in a natural imbalance, which subjects us to a risk of injury, as well subjects us to a significant performance decrease from a change in a structural situation.
When I was in a college environment, I had a sign in a picture frame in my office. It said, "Relationships wins championships." And so I love this next question, if you wouldn't mind. I mean, how much emphasis do you place on learning about each player, their background, what motivates them, their goals? I mean, how do you go about developing a connection with the individuals you work with?
In 20 years of coaching, I've got a whole lot of rings and other stuff. They're all in a drawer somewhere or a box. I couldn't tell you where any of them are, but I could tell you about every single person I ever coached. I could tell you about their lives. I could tell you about their families. I still talk to them all. 20 years later, I have guys that call me and say, hey, Coach, how do you know when it's right to get married? Coach, what do I do when my first child's born? How am I going to deal with this? Those things are grown men contact me, and grown women contact me from 20 years ago to talk about. It's because they know I love them. If you don't have a foundation of respect and caring, you can never help a human being achieve everything they were made to achieve. It really comes down to figuring out what you need to do to help them facilitate the greatness that was put within them from God. If I can't accommodate my role for them, not for me, many times I think we get into a coaching situation and we feel like we're the center, they need to respect us, we're the most important. I believe human beings earn respect. You don't demand it. You earn it by caring and showing that you're willing to sacrifice yourself for everyone else in the room. If you do that, you now have a relationship that allows you to achieve greatness. Because in that situation, they will go to the wall for you because they always know you will go to the wall for them. That's what makes great teams. Some of the most talented teams I've ever worked with, very, very talented, not very successful. Some of the teams who were average talent were teams that we had national level competition and won major bowl games or competed in national championships in all types of sports. It's because of the chemistry and the interaction of the players. When you're willing to fight to the death for the man or woman that stands next to you, you're damn hard to beat.
I want to talk a little bit about your program design, if you wouldn't mind, and go down the road of exercise selection. I mean, are there exercises that you avoid or even encourage in your program?
There are specific exercises that we actually encourage. You know, it's kind of funny because our program is very scientific, and our program is designed towards the way the human body neuromuscularly adapts to stressors. When I write a program, I don't say, hey, I'm going to take a defensive back and I'm going to train a defensive back a specific way. I say, I'm going to supply a specific stimulus to a cell that creates a specific adaptation that will accommodate performance for a defensive back. Because Wolff's Law, the body conforms and adapts to the intensities and in the directions it's habitually subjected to. All that means is what you do is what you become. So if I want a specific desired result, I need to supply a specific stimulus to accommodate that desired adaptation. Knowing that when I design a program, I make sure that every cycle, every exercise is focused on eliciting those results. The one thing about a television show is not much of that is shown. So you'll see different intervals or different pieces, but you don't see the full program. You don't see actually what the structure is, how it works together. Most often you're going to see the last reps of a set when someone's about to die. You're not going to see the first 3 reps of the set when they're really efficient and functional. So when you look at your program and you design things, you have to understand that, A, every sport has different needs structurally and cellularly to create adaptation to accommodate performance. When we design them, we atypically, let's take football. We would start in an anatomical adaptation phase for a person who has not trained. In my philosophy, we would then move to a hypertrophication phase. From a hypertrophication phase, we would move to a max strength phase. From max strength, I would move to power transfer. Then I would move to a conventional in-season, which is a conjugate phase. The reason for this is the neuromuscular adaptation. I go through the first anatomical adaptation phase to accommodate structural adaptation so I can handle loads. Now I'm allowing for connective tissue, bones, and the human body to adapt to loads and prepare itself for a heavier load variation when I move into hypertrophy. In hypertrophy, I'm going to shoot for neuromuscular fatigue. I'm going to try and create as much muscle mass as possible, increasing the cross-sectional area of the muscle fiber so that I have more sarcomeres in parallel. I then move to a max strength or neural recruitment phase to elevate the number of active cross bridges per unit of contraction. So as I increase the number of cross bridges in parallel, now I engage more per action, which increases my force production. My last phase, I then try to transfer those active cross bridges to a higher velocity of shortening, since force and velocity are inverse in the human anatomy. As force goes up, velocity goes down, and vice versa. As velocity goes up, force goes down. My goal is to create activation and then teach more fibers to activate at a higher velocity so that I have a greater power output before I go into a football game. And in the in-season, we run a conjugate phase that matches up with the necessary aspects of each of those phases to fit the needs of a player, whether they're an offensive lineman or a wide receiver or a defensive back or a defensive lineman. It becomes very scientific in its structure, but it also adapts and changes based on the sport. If we're talking about a distance runner, I'm not going to run through a power phase. I'm going to go through a muscular endurance phase at the end. The conversion has to convert me to the desired result I need for the specific output of the sport.
I know you've had an opportunity to be involved with recruiting high school athletes going to the college level, and then obviously getting the guys going from the college level to the big time, if you want to call it that, to the NFL or CFL, et cetera. I mean, I want to know a little bit about that high school level when the guys come to you or ask questions about just the concept of bulking up for football and actually getting heavier for football. I mean, what advice would you have for high school football players that want to bulk up?
You know, I'd say the biggest mistake I've seen over the last 20-some-odd years is really guys just mashing food in and trying to bulk up. But what they're doing is they're eating poor diets and they're getting fat. They'd be better off trying to eat a balanced diet and increasing their caloric intake and oftentimes increasing the amount of protein that they take in to effectively put on the proper type of muscle mass. Because these guys are carrying around sandbags and oftentimes are obese and creating injuries. They're trying to decelerate a mass that is non-functional. They're tearing up their knees. They're creating problems with their backs. They're messing with their heart. To me, there's a way to get the mass on the correct way. When we look at the substrates or the foods that we ingest, we have to understand that, first of all, carbohydrates are the only anaerobic fuel. So if I'm going to do an exercise that requires anaerobic levels or heart rates above 80% of your maximum, I have to have carbohydrates to produce ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. The carbohydrates are an important component to training. Proteins are a secondary energy source. Their job is to be maintenance, growth, and repair for the human body. Their job is to maintain tissue, cause growth in tissue, and repair tissue in the human body. If we're out of carbohydrates and we're out of fats, we go to protein as an energy source. That shouldn't happen a whole lot in an athlete. Our primary fuels should come from fats and carbohydrates, hopefully reducing the quantity of fats, increasing some of the carbohydrates necessary to perform anaerobic activity, and dramatically increasing some of our protein intake atypically for a normal person to accommodate the healing and the replenishment and regeneration of the muscle tissue. A well-balanced diet put together with the right attributes of the three functional components, fats, carbohydrates, and proteins, combined with the proper type of training. Because a lot of these kids, too, are going into the gym and just randomly ripping out some exercises. It's written on the board. That's not how I do my job. Everything we do is adapted specifically for the athlete. Everything is calculated. Everything is laid out for them when they arrive, even from a standpoint of when the guys come in, their meals are already cooked. Their meals are cooked for them in the morning. We give them their supplements. We have our own supplement line. They go right from that into a training session. They may be there an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours. They go right from that to a cold tub. They go right from that to any rehabilitation they have, from that to massage therapy, right back over to meals cooked again. Supplements, boom, we send them home with dinner. They come back in the morning and do it again. So taking care of your body, training has to transcend your lifestyle. If you just show up in the gym and work for 2 hours, expect to really get the results of working for 2 hours. If you spend the entire day balancing your meal, eating right, making sure you take care of your body, recovering properly, making sure you ingest the right amount of fluids, and the 2 hours of training, now it's transcending your lifestyle, and you're going to put on the right type of muscle mass.
I want to walk down that line about overtraining or the concept of under-recovery, and really you touched a little bit about the nourishment aspect of it, but I also want to walk down the road about the hydration and the value of quality sleep. I mean, how do you monitor hydration in your athletes or the people you get a chance to work with, and how important is the education of proper sleep and the value of quality sleep in your program?
You know, there's a number of different ways. You can do a specific urine test where we can look at it and look at the discoloration in the urine to see if they're not hydrated enough. We actually have the luxury of balancing their meals and actually writing their diets. So we actually also provide the amount of fluid that I want ingested in a day, and I can functionally give it to them while they're here. Recovery is critical. You know, people see a workout. It was funny. You see a workout like hypertrophy, and they say, "Oh my gosh, it's hellacious." Yeah, well, I mean, when you look at a guy who's cleaning 365 pounds for a set of 6, doing 155 pounds for repetition still failure is probably not too jeopardizing. I mean, you know, Chris Neal is a guy who cleaned 450 pounds pretty easy. He's a man. Guy who's put together well. He's very, very powerful. You know, he's done 405 for multiple reps. He's an explosive guy. You give him a lighter weight and you see something fatigue like that, sure, he's going to fatigue, he's going to wear out. But at the same time, that's a short window. He does that for 2 weeks. The reality is he does it for 2 weeks, 3 days a week. The rest of the time, recovery becomes important when we get into recruitment, even within the training cycles. I'm going to have him do an exercise set. He's going to recover. He plays for 7 seconds. My goal in the hypertrophication phase is to increase the cross-sectional area of the muscle fiber. My goal in the recruitment phase is to activate it with as much force as possible and get as many of the active cross bridges engaging per unit of contraction. So when we look at that, even within just the phases, the recovery between sets changes significantly. And post-workout, making sure that I have even the right things to eat, that my body is put into a cold tub to offset the production of cortisol and try and decelerate some of the things that are catastrophic to the body or some of the catabolic reactions that are occurring. It's pinnacle to have that done. If I'm not getting into a cold tub and monitoring some of my recovery post-workout, I'm really selling myself short. If pre-workout, mid-workout, and post-workout, I'm not putting the right substrates into my body and I don't have the proper nutrition, I'm selling myself short. If I don't go to, at the highest level, a massage therapist and increase blood flow and allow for the muscular system, again, to flush both not only the neuromuscular system but also the lymphatic system, I'm selling myself short. There are a lot of variables that go into recovery. One of those is obviously sleep. We release more human growth hormone during REM cycles than any other time. There's a reason that for years people utilize human growth hormone to cheat. One, it's obviously not very good for you, but it does increase performance. We understand that. If we can have a natural effect on the way we regenerate our body when it comes to hormones, one of the primary things we can do is get rest. If we can get into a deep sleep cycle, there are many different ways that we can monitor this now. There are several different companies that we utilize that can monitor people's sleep to see, are they actually in a REM cycle? Are they sleeping? Are they getting A2 sleep? Are they actually in the situation where their body is recovering, where their central nervous system is shutting down, they're releasing human growth hormone, and they're reestablishing some of the healing process necessary to be effective. They're also finding that if a person goes to bed after 11 o'clock, that recovery is dramatically decreased. You would think, well, I go to bed at midnight and I get up at 9. You'd actually be better off going to bed at 11 o'clock and getting up at 7. If you can get a solid 8 hours of sleep, they find that if you go to bed before 11, the recovery tends to be better for the human body. So there are a lot of different things that we can look at. You know, 11 to 7 is actually the pinnacle time that most are finding when they do the studies. But there are a lot of different things that we can look at to accommodate healing. Two of the most important things are going to be your nutrition and your sleep. The other one is going to be the rehabilitative processes that you go through via massage therapy, cold tubs, cryogenic therapy, or those types of things that will allow for the immediate offset of some of the catabolic reactions in the production of cortisol.
I want to go off the beaten trail here with a typical interview, if you wouldn't mind. And most of the time, strength and conditioning coaches get interviewed, and they talk about 3 sets of 10 on the bench and the typical program design. But you have one thing that has really caught me by surprise as far as getting a chance to find out a little bit about you over the years, obviously, is your passion to work with people who have spine injuries in particular. I don't have any real specific questions about it, but my one question is, I mean, how do you approach them differently or similar to what we do with an advanced athlete or an elite athlete, depending on what you want to call it there? I mean, how do you approach their programming, their motivation, and really how much is that given back to you as a professional?
Here's the thing I figured out a long time ago. I've never coached anybody to win a football game. I've never coached anybody to win a soccer championship or to win, the World Series. I coach human beings to help human beings be the best they possibly can be. That's my job. That's my goal. Very simplistic. I really don't care about much else. And I guess when you look at things when it comes to differences in philosophies or differences in opinions in training, I don't ever judge anybody as long as I know their character is solid. As long as I know that that person's goal is to focus on the development of the human being and they're doing it to the best of their ability. When I got into medicine, my original goal was to help people in that field. It really wasn't how God made me. The academic aspects, I thought they were relatively easy, to be honest. That's just how God made me. That stuff came to me. But he did not make me to be the person to sit in a formal, sedentary, kind of laid-back environment where I have to be very, very composed. That is not how he made me. He made me to be explosive, energetic, and motivating. So I took what I did and what I learned in science and designed a program or a protocol to help people, athletes, because it's suited my nature. After coaching for, 20-odd years, I ended up at the University of Michigan. We were at West Virginia. We were the number one ranked team in the country. We were getting ready to play for the national championship. We were 33-4 in 3 seasons. We were a pretty good football team. The week before we played Pitt knocks us off and knocks us out of the championship game. I think they had 3 wins that season, so it wasn't expected by any means. It was just everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes it's God's will. You just embrace it and you move forward. You got to take the good with the bad. If you're not willing to take the bad, then you don't deserve the good. So when you look at aspects of development, that was pinnacle for me because Rich Rodriguez came to me and asked me, hey, look, I'd like to go to the University of Michigan. They're offering me the job. Are you going to go? And he said, if you're not going to go, then I got to take a look at this and decide because I'm probably not going to do this without you. He and I were very, very close, and it was a good opportunity for him, and it was a good opportunity for me. So we talked, and we ended up going to the Fiesta Bowl playing Oklahoma, who was a heck of a football team that year. I'm pretty sure they were ranked number 1 at some point that season, too, and they got knocked off in the championship game. And we ended up having a real good showing. We beat them, I don't even remember what it was, 45-14 or something like that. So it was a pretty good showing. After that, we ended up going to the University of Michigan. When I arrived here, Brock Mueller, who is Elliot Mueller's brother, Elliot Mueller was a recruit for the University of Michigan. And Elliot had been an Ohio State fan his entire life. So was Brock. His entire family were. His walls were painted with it in his bedroom. He came downstairs to his dad one day and said, look, I really feel like I'm supposed to visit Michigan. His dad, they're religious people, and his dad said God hates Michigan, so I don't think you want to go up there. But, Elliot decided, against his father's wishes to visit Michigan, and he ended up committing. So at the last minute, he's coming to Michigan, and at the last minute, I end up coming to Michigan. I don't think that anything in life happens per chance. I think people oftentimes say, hey, look, I'm going to live a purpose-driven life. I'm going to search out my purpose. I don't believe that. I think you find purpose in everything you do to manifest greatness in the individuals around you. If you're willing to do that, you have a successful life. Not championships, not wins, not losses. It's about saying, I gave everything I had while I was here to every individual I came in contact with to manifest any positive change I could. If I can do that, when I leave, I'm okay with whatever God decides. And the reality at that point became, Elliot arrives on campus, I arrive on campus right around the same time. While we were in Arizona, Christmas Eve, Elliot's family had gone to church. They were on their way home from church. They stopped at a stop sign. A 90-year-old man ran the stop sign and hit him broadside, killed Elliot's father, killed Elliot's girlfriend, and paralyzed Elliot's brother, Brock. The only one who made it out of the injury clean was Elliot's mother. And Elliot tore his shoulder up pretty good in the accident. I came on campus. He arrives on campus. We've never met. I had done a little bit of a speech, motivational thing when I first arrived. I think it was for ESPN or one of them. And Elliot reached out and he said, hey, would you mind coming to see my brother in the hospital? So, understanding that the boy was struggling, I went to the hospital to see him, and he was a mess. He was paralyzed from the waist down. They had told him he would never walk again, and that was hard for me to watch. I don't like watching people suffer when I know, hey, that I'm here to try to help. Do I know I can always help? Maybe not, but I'm going to do the best I can. So we ended up talking, and I said, son, they told you you're never going to walk again, but I don't know that they know. To be frank with you, I think that's up to you and God. And when it comes down to spinal injuries, half of it's a guessing game. We don't know what's going to come back, if it's going to come back. It really comes down to your willingness to put in the work and God's will to allow you to have it. And we ended up becoming pretty good friends. He'd come to practice and, in the wheelchair and stay with us. And after 2 years, he was able to walk and have function in his lower limb. And they, as insurance would go, they cut off his insurance and told him it was it. You've got to used to be in a wheelchair and move forward. I spoke with his mother, and his mother said he's a wreck. Is there any way you could talk to him? And I was honored to be able to do so. And we had a conversation. I said, son, you can shut it down, or you and I can spend some time together and see if we can't figure this thing out. And I think he thought I was kidding. He said, Coach, you already work 14, 15-hour days. I don't know how much more you want to work. I said, look, I'll work. I just won't sleep. I got to do what I got to do if it comes down to helping a person I care about. So we came in about 3 to 4 extra hours a day, myself and Parker Whiteman, my assistant, who's now at Arizona. And we worked with him every day, 5 days a week. And in about 6 months, he was standing and taking steps, and he ended up leading us out of the tunnel for the season opener against UConn, which we actually won. And he touched the banner in front of 110,000 people, and I would say in 20-some-odd years of coaching in over 40 different sporting events with over 500 Olympic and pro athletes, it was simply the most inspirational, greatest moment of my coaching career by far. Nothing else, no Fiesta Bowl championship, Sugar Bowl championship, they all pale in comparison to that moment because I watched a man heal a family. I watched God make a change in a man that metamorphosized changes in thousands of people across the United States. To me, he's a great man. I'm just a dummy that got to help. And the reality was I took the same scientific principles that I designed strength and conditioning programs for thousands of athletes over the years and adapted them to meet the needs of a person who couldn't stand. And said, how am I going to work on this? Is it going to be the afferent process, the efferent process? So I focused on the afferent loop process, trying to get biofeedback. I actually designed an entire protocol to try and help Brock specifically. From that, we've now started the First Step Foundation, and we have about 50 people at a time that run through this center from all over the world with neurological disorders that we help. We've had multiple people walk. I did a TED Talk about a year ago where Brock and a boy from Canada who was paralyzed for 4 years, who now walks as well, Chris Williams. And they both walk out on stage. The TED Talk's not that good, but the guys walking, that's pretty damn good. They did a tremendous job. And I just feel blessed that God's allowed me to take the gifts that he gave me and utilize them to help people. And I enjoy working with people with disabilities every bit as much, probably significantly more than I do helping people win championships. Because to me, my job is to make change in people's lives with what God wants. One of the major reasons I got out of coaching, to be honest with you, was that. I sat down with my wife, and we had a conversation, and she asked me a pretty simple question. I said, I don't know. I don't want to walk away, and Brock hasn't walked without his canes yet. He wants to walk for his wedding. He can walk about a mile, by the way, with nothing now, no canes, no nothing. And he wanted me to help him walk for his wedding without a cane and be able to dance with his wife. And when that happened, little did people know I was actually doing 3 different people. As it was happening, our defensive coordinator's daughter had brain surgery and was ataxic and was crippled as well. And I helped her. And she ended up getting back to a place where she could jog, which is kind of exceptional in her field because she was the only person that was able to do a jog through a walk that most people with that disability more or less struggle to walk through. And she's very effective. She's married now. She danced at her wedding, and which is awesome. And I also was helping another gentleman who was friends with the coaching staff who had a stroke and was crippled for 6 years. All 3 of them ended up walking. And, for me, I got to do what I wanted with the gifts I was given for 20 years. Sometimes you got to do what you're asked. And my wife made that very clear with me in a meeting when we were talking, and she said, Mike, you love coaching? Yeah, I love coaching. I love helping kids. I love inspiring kids to achieve their goals and their dreams. And she said, sometimes you get to do what you want. Sometimes you should do what you're told. Maybe you should do both. And that was a really simplistic change. At that point, I decided that I wasn't going to continue to coach in college athletics. I could still work with all the guys. I've worked with 9 different pro teams in 3 different professional leagues, and I get the opportunity to train hundreds of Olympic and professional athletes, like college kids, high school kids, young kids, but I also do what God's asked, and I get to help people with disabilities. And to me, sometimes we get into positions, we want the accolades, we want the prestige. I don't care about any of them. All I care about is the ability to help as many people as I can before I leave this earth. If I do that, then I'm okay.
Well, Mike, man, I appreciate that story there. I know you're a busy guy as well, so I don't want to keep you on the phone too long, man. If anybody has any questions about anything we discussed on the phone, maybe you even wanted to reach out to you and learn more about the First Step program, or just find out what you got going on, my man, how do they go about reaching out to you?
We have a website called barwismethods.com. We have 2 foundations. One is for impoverished children, which is our Athletic Angels Foundation, and the other one is for people with disabilities, neurological disabilities, which is our First Step Foundation. You can reach us through barwismethods.com for all of our different companies. And, there's an info at Barwis Methods. If you have questions, you can shoot us an email, and we'd be happy to answer them. I'm really honored to have been put on here, man. You've got a lot of very, very talented people that have been on your show and with some tremendous accolades in what they do, and it's humbling to be able to be considered to speak on the same stages.
Again, man, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day here, Big Dog. It's awesome having a guy with as much passion as you have on the show, man. It speaks highly of who you are as a person. I look forward to keeping in touch, my man. Hopefully this is a launching pad for us to do things down the line here. Keep on doing what you're doing. Good luck with all you got going on. And, man, I look forward to just, making sure you and I stay in touch, Big Dog.
My honor, man, and thank you very much. God bless you and what you're doing for the field. You're doing a heck of a job.